It's midnight. A woman sits alone in her living room, holding a letter that shattered her world. Tears blur her vision, but one thought repeats in her mind. Why me? Why now? We've all been there. A heartbreak, a loss, a failure that made us question the very meaning of life. And in those moments, it feels almost impossible to believe that any of this pain could ever have a purpose. But here's the paradox. According to Buddhist philosophy, nothing happens by accident. Every single joy, every single wound carries a reason. And once we see that reason, life is never the same again. So the question is, what if the darkest moment in your life was not a punishment, but a hidden doorway? Stay with me, because in the next few minutes, you might begin to see your struggles with brand new eyes. Think about it. The job that slipped away, the friend who walked out, the diagnosis that changed everything. What if those weren't random tragedies, but part of a deeper unfolding? Buddhism teaches us that life is never a straight line. It's a river, sometimes calm, sometimes stormy, but always flowing with purpose. And the current is carrying you exactly where you need to be. This doesn't mean life is easy. It doesn't mean suffering disappears, but it does mean there is meaning woven into every twist of the path. And before we dive deeper, I want to ask from the heart, if these words already touch something inside you, consider subscribing, liking, or sharing this video with someone who may need a little light today. It's the simplest way of saying thank you, and it helps this message of Buddhist wisdom reach more people searching for peace. Because here's the truth. When we learn why everything happens for a reason, three things shift. We stop fighting change, we stop blaming fate, and we begin to see challenges as teachers instead of enemies. And the first step is understanding impermanence, the law that changes everything you thought you knew about happiness. 1. Impermanence. Learning to let go. It was late afternoon. John sat alone in his car, staring at the photo of his family on the dashboard. His marriage had ended, his children lived far away, and his job felt like a weight he could no longer carry. Inside, he kept asking, why did this happen to me? Why couldn't things just stay the way they were? That question haunted him. And maybe you've asked yourself the same thing. We all do, whenever life shifts in ways we didn't choose. But here's the truth that Buddhism has reminded us for thousands of years. Nothing in this world lasts forever. Not our joy, not our pain, not even the body we call home. Everything is impermanent. Everything is in motion, like a river that never stops flowing. The Buddha once taught, all conditioned things are impermanent. When one sees this with wisdom, one turns away from suffering. Think about that for a moment. Suffering doesn't come from the change itself. It comes from our resistance to it. It comes from clinging to what once was and refusing to let it go. John realized this one evening when he was watching the sunset. The sky burned orange and gold, and he thought, if I tried to hold on to this moment, I'd only suffer when the sun disappeared. But if he simply allowed it to be beautiful, fleeting, alive, then peace came naturally. Isn't that the same with everything in our lives? A relationship, a career, even our health. They are like passing seasons. We enjoy the blossoms of spring, but we know autumn will arrive. We cannot stop the leaves from falling, but we can choose how to walk among them. The struggle begins when we say, I want spring to last forever. That's when pain grows. But when we whisper instead, I accept this change, I let it flow, then freedom arises. I want to pause here and ask, what in your life right now are you holding on to so tightly that it hurts? Maybe it's a past relationship. Maybe it's the fear of losing security. Or maybe it's the version of yourself that no longer exists. When you let yourself feel the truth of impermanence, something softens. You stop fighting the river, and instead, you float with it. That's when life begins to carry you, instead of you trying to carry life. And here's the paradox. When you let go, you don't actually lose. You gain space. Space for something new, something you never imagined. Just like John, who after releasing the bitterness of his divorce, began to reconnect with his children in a way he never had before. He discovered that letting go didn't mean abandoning love. It meant creating room for a deeper, freer kind of love. This is what Buddhism invites us to practice, not to cling, not to resist, but to live in harmony with the dance of change. Because when we fight impermanence, we suffer. But when we embrace it, we discover peace that no external circumstance can shake. So next time you feel the ache of loss, remember the river. It never stops moving, and that's what makes it alive. You too are part of that flow. And within it, there is always renewal. Take a breath. Release one small thing you've been clinging to today. Notice the lightness that follows. That lightness is freedom. That lightness is peace. 2. The law of cause and effect. Every action leaves a mark. There was a man named Daniel. He wasn't a bad person, but he often found himself angry. At work, he would snap at his colleagues. At home, his words sometimes cut deeper than he realized. And every time, he told himself, "It's just stress. It doesn't matter. People will forget." But the truth was, his children didn't forget. His wife didn't forget. And deep inside, neither did he. The atmosphere in his home grew heavy, even in silence. It was like tossing a stone into a pond. The ripples kept moving long after the stone disappeared. That's the essence of karma. Not a punishment, not a reward, but the natural law of cause and effect. Every thought, every word, every action is a seed. And sooner or later, that seed will sprout. The Buddha once taught, if you want to know the cause of your past, look at your present. If you want to know your future, look at your present actions. It's simple, but it's profound. Life is not random. Every choice we make leaves an imprint, shaping the world around us and the world within us. Daniel learned this when his daughter, only 10 years old, stopped coming to him when she was hurt. She would run to her mother instead. One evening, when he asked why, she whispered, "Because you always shout." Those 3 words pierced his heart. That was the moment he realized karma wasn't waiting for him in some distant future. It was already here, in the distance between him and the people he loved most. Think about that for a moment. How many times have we thrown careless words into the world, believing they would vanish? But words don't vanish. They echo. They take root. And sometimes, they return to us in ways we don't expect. This doesn't mean we should live in fear of every mistake. It means we have the power right here, right now to choose the kind of seeds we plant. When we act with kindness, patience, and integrity, those seeds will grow into trust, love, and peace. When we act with anger, greed, or carelessness, those seeds grow into pain, conflict, and regret. It's like tending a garden. The soil doesn't judge you. It doesn't punish you. It simply gives back what you plant. Plant roses, you'll see roses. Plant thorns, you'll feel them later. Daniel began to change in small ways. He paused before reacting. He apologized when his words hurt. He started each day with the intention to plant just one seed of kindness, whether it was a smile, a gentle word, or a patient silence. Slowly, the atmosphere at home shifted. His daughter began to sit by his side again. The ripples he created this time carried warmth, not distance. And isn't that what we all long for? To create ripples of love that outlast us. To know that the energy we send out doesn't harm but heals. The Buddha never asked us to be perfect. He simply asked us to be mindful, to realize that every step, every breath, every choice is part of the great chain of cause and effect. That awareness alone can transform how we live. So, I invite you to pause. Look at your own life. What kind of seeds are you planting today? If the harvest feels heavy, maybe it's time to plant differently. Because the garden of tomorrow begins with the choices of this very moment. Remember this: karma is not destiny carved in stone. It is the gentle reminder that you always have the power to begin again. 3. Suffering and attachment. Learning to love unconditionally. Emma sat in a quiet cafe, staring at her phone. Her eyes kept returning to the photo of someone she loved deeply. The relationship had ended months ago, yet she couldn't let go. Every memory felt like a chain wrapped tightly around her heart. She told herself, if only I can hold on a little longer, maybe things will go back to the way they were. But the truth? The more she clung, the more she suffered. Her joy faded. Her days were filled with longing, her nights with emptiness. It wasn't just the loss that hurt, it was the attachment. This is something the Buddha spoke of often. He taught that suffering is born not from what happens outside of us, but from how tightly we cling to it inside. We grasp at people, possessions, even ideas, as if they could last forever. And when reality shifts, as it always does, we feel torn apart. Think about it. How often do we confuse love with possession? We say, "You are mine." We build invisible cages around the people we care about. But true love is never about holding on. True love is freedom. It is the ability to let someone be who they are, without chains, without conditions. The Buddha once said, "To love without clinging is to love with wisdom." It doesn't mean we stop caring. It doesn't mean we withdraw from life. It means we love with open hands instead of closed fists. Emma discovered this lesson slowly. One evening, she sat with her pain in silence. She noticed how tightly her body held, how her breath felt trapped. And then, with tears in her eyes, she whispered, "I release you. I release myself." That moment didn't erase her love. It transformed it. She began to see love not as possession, but as a gift that had touched her life, even if only for a season. The paradox is this: the more we cling, the less we truly love. Because clinging is about fear, fear of loss, fear of emptiness. But unconditional love is fearless. It doesn't say, "Stay so I can be happy." It says, "I want you to be free, even if your path no longer includes me." When Emma embraced this shift, she felt lighter. She could smile at the memories without being crushed by them. She could open her heart again, not only to new relationships, but to life itself. And isn't that what we all desire? A love that liberates instead of imprisons. A love that expands instead of contracts. Attachment will always whisper, "Hold on tighter." But wisdom replies, "Let go, and you will find peace." Take a moment and reflect. Where in your life are you holding on too tightly? Is it to a person, a dream, an identity? Notice how much energy it takes to cling. And imagine, just for a moment, how freeing it would feel to release even a little. This doesn't mean abandoning love. It means discovering a deeper love, one that doesn't depend on control, one that allows both you and the other to breathe. That is the kind of love that heals suffering. That is the kind of love that lasts not in possession, but in presence. So, When suffering arises from attachment, remember Emma's journey. Remember the Buddha's teaching. And whisper to yourself, love is freedom. Love is letting go. 4. Acceptance. The natural flow of life. Life doesn't always unfold the way we expect. I'm sure you've felt this before. You plan carefully, you dream big, and yet, something shifts. A job doesn't go the way you hoped. A relationship ends before you were ready. An opportunity slips right through your hands. And in those moments, the mind starts to fight. We say, why me? Why now? Why this way? It's almost like wrestling with a storm, trying to push back the rain with your bare hands. But here's the truth. Resistance only makes the storm feel stronger. The Buddha once taught that suffering often arises not from what happens, but from the way we cling to how we wanted things to be. It's not the event itself, but our refusal to accept it that brings the deepest pain. Acceptance, then, is not weakness. It's not resignation. It is strength. Think about it. To accept reality as it is requires courage. It means facing the truth with an open heart instead of hiding behind anger or blame. For me, I remember a time when I was desperately holding on to something that had already slipped away. No matter how hard I tried, life was moving in a different direction. And the more I resisted, the more exhausted I became. It was only when I stopped saying, "This shouldn't be happening," and instead whispered to myself, "This is happening, now what?" that my heart softened. That moment of acceptance didn't erase the challenge, but it transformed my relationship with it. It's like standing in front of a river. You can try to stop the water with your hands, but it will always find a way around you. Or you can step in, let the current move, and allow yourself to flow with it. When we accept what cannot be changed, we stop wasting energy on battles we cannot win. And that energy can be redirected toward what truly matters: healing, learning, growing. This doesn't mean giving up. It means choosing wisely. Acceptance is the bridge between peace and action. There are things in life you can change. Your habits, your perspective, your next step. And there are things you cannot. The passing of time, the choices of others, the fact that life is always moving, always changing. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference. The Buddha expressed this beautifully. Peace comes when we let go of attachment to how we think things should be. Imagine if, instead of resisting, you learn to move with the natural rhythm of life. When a door closes, you don't stand there pounding in anger. You turn, you breathe, and you look for the window opening behind you. Acceptance is not the end of effort. It is the beginning of wisdom. Because once you stop fighting reality, you are free to respond with clarity. So the next time life doesn't go the way you planned, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, is this something I can change, or is this something I must accept? If it's something you can change, take a step. If it's something you cannot, soften your heart and let it be. That's when life begins to feel lighter. That's when peace quietly enters. And that's when you discover that acceptance is not surrender to fate, but harmony with the flow of existence itself. Because when you stop resisting, you realize life has always been carrying you exactly where you were meant to go. 5. The hidden meaning behind adversity. Turning suffering into strength. Adversity. It's a word that often makes our hearts heavy the moment we hear it. We don't ask for it. We don't welcome it. And yet, it shows up unexpected, uninvited, sometimes even unbearable. Maybe for you, it was a painful loss. Maybe it was the betrayal of someone you trusted. Or maybe it was the quiet, invisible battles within your own mind: fear, doubt, loneliness. In those moments, it's natural to ask, Why me? Why now? I've asked that question myself, and I know the echo of silence that follows can feel endless. But here's the thing. Every hardship carries a hidden seed. A seed of wisdom, a seed of growth, a seed of transformation. The Buddha once compared suffering to fire. At first, it burns. It hurts. It consumes. But just as gold is refined in flames, our hearts too are shaped by the heat of struggle. Through fire, gold shines brighter. Through pain, the soul grows stronger. I remember a season in my own life when I was drowning in setbacks. Everything I thought was stable suddenly fell apart. It felt like life was closing every door, one after another. And I kept asking, why is this happening to me? But over time, something shifted. I began to notice that pain was teaching me resilience. Failure was teaching me humility. Loss was teaching me compassion for others who were also hurting. It was then I realized the question was never, why me? The real question was, what am I meant to learn from this? And that changed everything. Imagine a tree in a storm. The winds may be fierce, the rain relentless. Branches may bend, some may even break. But deep beneath the surface, the roots grow stronger, reaching deeper, holding tighter. That's what adversity does to us. It strengthens the unseen parts of who we are. And when you think about it, isn't it true that the people you admire most, those with wisdom, depth, and kindness, are often the ones who have walked through the hardest storms? Adversity does not just shape us, it reveals us. It shows us what we are capable of when we thought we had nothing left. The Buddha's teaching is clear. Suffering is not the end. It is a teacher, a mirror, a guide pointing us inward, helping us awaken to a deeper strength that comfort alone could never reveal. So next time life throws you into the fire, pause. Instead of asking, why is this happening? Try asking, what is this here to teach me? Maybe the pain is teaching you patience. Maybe the failure is teaching you courage. Maybe the heartbreak is teaching you compassion so wide it can hold another person's tears. Every adversity carries meaning. Every wound carries wisdom. And every trial carries the potential to transform you into someone more resilient, more compassionate, more alive. So, my friend, don't run from the fire. Step into it with awareness. Let it refine you, not define you. Because when the flames die down, you may just find that you have become like gold, stronger, brighter, and shining with a light that others can follow. Adversity isn't here to destroy you. It's here to reveal the strength that was within you all along. 6. Living mindfully, returning to the present. Have you ever noticed how often your mind is somewhere else? Your body may be here, but your thoughts, they're running back to the past, replaying old mistakes, regrets, or moments you wish had turned out differently. Or they're rushing forward into the future, worrying about things that haven't even happened yet. I know this feeling well. There was a time when I would lie awake at night, my mind racing. One part of me was stuck in yesterday, replaying conversations, wondering if I could have done better. Another part was already in tomorrow, creating scenarios, problems, and fears that weren't even real yet. And in all of that mental noise, I wasn't truly living. I was everywhere except here. The Buddha taught that the mind is often like a restless monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never still. But he also showed us the key to freedom, mindfulness, to live awake, to return again and again to this present moment. Because think about it, life doesn't happen in the past. It doesn't happen in the future. It happens here, now. Happiness, peace, freedom. They are not waiting for you somewhere out there. They are waiting for you in this very breath. I remember the first time I practiced simply following my breath. At first it felt strange. My mind kept drifting away. But then, for a brief moment, something shifted. I felt the air entering my lungs. I felt the rise and fall of my chest. And for that one moment, I wasn't worrying. I wasn't regretting. I wasn't lost in thought. I was simply here. It was so simple, and yet so profound. Because in that moment, I realized the present isn't just a point in time. It's home. When we come back to the present, even the smallest things come alive. The warmth of sunlight on your skin, the sound of leaves moving in the wind, the smile of a stranger passing by. Things we normally rush past suddenly reveal their quiet beauty. And this isn't just poetry, it's practice. Every time your mind runs away, you have a choice. You can gently bring it back. Back to the breath. Back to your steps. Back to what's real. Of course, the mind will resist. It will say, but what about tomorrow? What about the bills? What about what they said? And yes, those things matter. But if you lose today worrying about tomorrow, you lose twice. If you lose this moment replaying yesterday, you lose twice. The Buddha reminded us, do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment. These words are not just wisdom, they are medicine. Because when we practice them, suffering loosens its grip. Living mindfully doesn't mean you never plan or never reflect. It means you don't get trapped there. You use the past as a teacher, the future as a guide, but your home is always now. So next time your thoughts begin to scatter, pause. Take one slow breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the world around you. This is life. Not yesterday. Not tomorrow. But here, now. And if you can truly return to this moment, again and again, you'll discover that happiness was never missing. It was only hidden beneath the noise of a wandering mind. The present moment is enough. It always was. It always will be. 7. Transforming the mind, the path to liberation. Have you ever noticed how two people can go through the exact same event, but experience it in completely different ways? One person faces a challenge and collapses under its weight. Another faces the same challenge and somehow grows stronger, calmer, even wiser. The difference isn't the event itself. The difference is the mind. I learned this truth during one of the hardest chapters of my own life. There was a time when I felt stuck, overwhelmed by things I couldn't control. The stress of work, the expectations of others, the constant stream of disappointments and frustrations. On the surface, these things seemed like the problem. But slowly, I began to realize the real battlefield wasn't outside. It was inside. The Buddha once said, "We are shaped by our thoughts. We become what we think." At first, those words sounded simple. But the more I sat with them, the more they began to unfold like a hidden truth. Suffering doesn't come only from what happens to us. It comes from the way we perceive what happens. Think about it. An insult only hurts because of the meaning we attach to it. Failure only crushes us when we label it as the end instead of a lesson. Even pain in the body becomes worse when the mind adds fear, resistance, and anger. This is why transforming the mind is the true path to liberation. And how do we do that? Through practice, through mindfulness, through meditation. I remember the first time I tried sitting still with my breath. At first, my mind was wild. Every sound, every thought pulled me away. But then, little by little, I started to notice the gap, the space between a thought and my reaction to it. That small space is where freedom begins. Because normally, something happens and we react instantly. Someone cuts us off in traffic and anger explodes. Someone criticizes us and we lash back or shrink in shame. It's automatic. It's conditioned. But with mindfulness, that space begins to widen. You see the anger rising, but you don't have to ride it. You hear the harsh words, but you don't have to throw them back. You feel the fear, but you don't let it rule your choices. And in that moment, you discover something profound. You are not your emotions. You are not your thoughts. You are the awareness behind them. This is what it means to transform the mind. It doesn't mean erasing all negativity overnight. It means changing our relationship with it. It means we stop being prisoners of our impulses and start becoming masters of our responses. The Buddha compared the untrained mind to a wild horse, untamed, dangerous, constantly pulling us off course. But when that same horse is trained with patience and care, it becomes a powerful companion, carrying us far on the path of wisdom. So ask yourself, what would your life look like if you no longer reacted out of anger, fear, or attachment? What if, instead, you responded with clarity, with peace, with compassion? This isn't just an idea. It's a practice. Each breath you take with awareness, each moment you choose patience over rage. Each time you pause before reacting, you are reshaping your mind. You are building the inner freedom no one can take away from you. Liberation doesn't come from changing the world to fit your desires. It comes from changing the way your mind meets the world. And when that transformation begins, suffering loses its grip. Life may still bring challenges, but they no longer control you. Because the key has always been within your own mind. 8. The power of compassion and gratitude. Let me tell you about a woman I once knew. Her name was Anna. On the outside, she looked like she had it all together. A steady job, a loving family, a roof over her head. But inside, Anna carried heavy shadows, resentments, old wounds from people who had hurt her, disappointments that she replayed every night before bed. She told me once, "It feels like I'm walking around with invisible weights tied to my chest." And maybe you know that feeling too. The truth is, pain is not always caused by what happens to us. Much of our suffering is fueled by how long we choose to hold on to it. Buddha once taught, holding on to anger is like grasping a hot coal with the intent of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. That wisdom hit Anna deeply, because the coal she had been holding was burning her own heart. One day, she made a simple choice. Instead of feeding anger, she began practicing compassion. At first, it felt unnatural. She resisted it. Why should she show kindness to people who hurt her? Why should she let go of the stories she had been clinging to for years? But slowly, she discovered something powerful. Every time she chose compassion, she wasn't excusing what happened. She was freeing herself from the chains of bitterness. Compassion became her medicine. Gratitude became her daily practice. In the mornings, she would sit quietly, take a few breaths, and whisper, "Thank you." Not just for the big things like her family or her health, but for the small, ordinary blessings. The warmth of sunlight through her window, the sound of birds outside, even the chance to start over each day. And little by little, those invisible weights began to fall away. Her face softened, her words grew gentler, her presence carried a kind of peace that touched everyone around her. This is the unseen power of compassion and gratitude. They don't just transform your inner world, they ripple out into the environment around you. Think about it. When you walk into a room filled with someone's anger, you feel it instantly, don't you? But when you step into the presence of someone who radiates kindness and gratitude, your own heart softens without effort. That's the energy Anna began to carry. And that's the energy you and I can carry too. Because compassion is not weakness, it is strength. It takes courage to meet hatred with understanding, to meet wounds with healing, to choose peace when the world around us is pushing for division. And gratitude, it changes the lens through which we see life. Instead of counting what's missing, we begin to notice what's already here. Instead of saying, "I'll be happy when," we say, "I am grateful now." The Buddha reminded us that a mind of loving kindness brings light to the darkest places. And gratitude multiplies that light. So, ask yourself, what coal are you still holding? What bitterness is weighing you down? And then, dare to loosen your grip. Replace resentment with compassion. Replace complaints with gratitude. Not for them, but for you. For your own freedom. For your own peace. Because the moment you do, you'll realize something extraordinary. The healing you give to others is the very healing your own soul has been waiting for. 9. A new day, a new beginning. There's something truly beautiful about mornings. That quiet moment before the world fully wakes. When the sun gently pushes away the night, and the air feels fresh, almost like life itself is whispering, "Here's another chance." For many of us, the past feels heavy. We replay mistakes. We regret things we said. We carry guilt like a shadow. It's easy to believe that our past defines who we are. But the Buddha taught us something different. He reminded us that every moment is new. Just as no river water flows past the same stone twice, no two moments in our life are ever the same. Let me tell you about Michael. He was a man who lived with deep regret. Years of anger had damaged his relationships. His children barely called. His marriage had ended. He told me once, "It's too late for me. I've ruined too much." But one morning, something shifted. He woke up, and instead of reaching for his phone, he just sat in silence. He felt the warmth of the sunlight on his face. He noticed his breath. And for the first time in years, he asked himself, what if today could be different? That small question became his turning point. Because the truth is, no matter how many mistakes we've made, every morning life hands us a clean page. A new day is not just another 24 hours. It's a seed. And whatever we plant in it, whether kindness, gratitude, or bitterness, will grow. Michael started small. One morning, he wrote a letter to his daughter, not asking for forgiveness, not making excuses, just 3 simple words: "I love you." It wasn't perfect, but it was a seed. Another day, he held the door open for a stranger at the grocery store. He smiled. They smiled back. Another seed. Slowly, the past began to loosen its grip. Because each day he chose a new action, he created a new path. And with every seed of kindness he planted, his life grew lighter, more meaningful. This is what the Buddha meant when he taught about karma, not as punishment, but as possibility. Karma is simply cause and effect. What you do today plants the seeds of tomorrow. So if your past is filled with anger, plant compassion today. If your past is filled with regret, plant gratitude today. If your past is filled with silence, plant connection today. It doesn't have to be grand. A kind word, a gentle smile, a small act of generosity. These are the beginnings of a new story. Because the past is a teacher, not a prison. The present moment is your key. And every sunrise is the universe reminding you can begin again. So the question is, what seed will you plant today? Will it be another day of replaying old stories? Or will it be a day of small, quiet courage, the kind that rewrites your destiny? Remember, no matter how dark yesterday was, today is light. No matter how broken you feel, today is whole. No matter what chains you carried, today your hands are free to let go. And when you do, when you truly see each morning as a new beginning, you'll realize something powerful. The life you long for doesn't begin someday. It begins today. It begins now. Summary of key points and reflections. As we come to the end of this journey together, let's take a deep breath and remember the heart of what the Buddha has taught us. Everything is impermanent. Nothing stays the same. So the more we cling, the more we suffer. But when we learn to let go, we finally taste freedom. Every action carries a seed. What we plant today, we will harvest tomorrow. A kind word, a gentle gesture, a patient smile, these are not small things. They are causes, shaping a future filled with peace. The Buddha reminded us that suffering is not simply from life itself, but from our attachment to how life should be. Happiness is not found in controlling the world. It is born when we free our own hearts. And isn't that the cliffhanger we began with? We asked, where does true happiness come from? The answer, dear friend, is not from changing the outside world, but from awakening the world inside you. When we live with acceptance, when we are mindful of each breath, when we walk through challenges with openness instead of resistance, life becomes lighter. Even pain can teach us. Even setbacks can grow us. Every trial we face hides a lesson. Every storm we endure can purify us. And when we meet life with compassion, both for ourselves and others, we stop fighting the river and instead learn to flow with it. So here are the gifts to carry with you. Impermanence teaches us to let go. Karma reminds us to sow seeds of kindness. Mindfulness brings us back to this moment where peace truly lives. Challenges, when embraced, reveal hidden strength. Compassion and gratitude transform not just our own lives, but the world around us. These truths are not just ideas. They are living practices. They are waiting for you in the way you breathe, the way you speak, the way you love. So, what will you carry from today into tomorrow? Will you hold on to old fears? Or will you plant something new, something gentle, something that brings you closer to freedom? If these words touched you, let them ripple outward. Maybe you're already thinking of someone who needs to hear this. If so, share this video with them. Because sometimes, one message at the right time can change an entire life. And if you'd like to walk further on this path of wisdom and peace, join us here at Buddhist Wisdom. There are more teachings, more stories, more light to guide your steps. Thank you, truly, for staying with me until the very end. May you find peace in every breath. May you find strength in every challenge. And may tomorrow greet you with hope, kindness, and joy. Remember, this may be the end of the video, but it's not the end of your journey. The next chapter is already waiting for you.